Homeless boy helps old lady. Not knowing she is the millionaire's mom, what he did next is amazing. Among the bustling crowd of people hurrying to their destinations, carrying umbrellas and briefcases, a young boy moved quietly along the curb. His clothes were worn and torn, his shoes soaked and heavy with water. He was small for his age, with dark hair plastered to his forehead and eyes that seemed to have seen too much for someone so young. This boy, Daniel, had learned early in life that the world could be harsh, unforgiving, and cold, yet he carried something in his heart that most people had long forgotten: kindness. Daniel had been living on the streets for as long as he could remember. After losing both his parents in a tragic accident when he was just 10, he had been shuffled between relatives who couldn't care for him and orphanages that were overcrowded and indifferent. Soon enough, he had found himself alone, with only the clothes on his back and a small, tattered backpack that contained the few belongings he could carry. Life on the streets was difficult, but Daniel had survived by being observant, clever, and always aware of his surroundings. He knew where to find food, which alleys offered shelter from the rain, and which people were kind enough to spare some change or a warm meal. Despite his hardships, Daniel refused to let bitterness take over his heart. He had seen the worst of people, yes, but he had also seen the best, and he clung to the hope that goodness still existed in the world. Today was one of those rainy days when the streets seemed emptier than usual, and the city felt colder, not just because of the weather, but because of the hurried indifference of those passing by. Daniel shuffled along, hands tucked deep into the pockets of his old jacket, searching for some small scraps of food or a dry corner to rest. As he rounded a corner near a busy street, he noticed an elderly woman struggling with a heavy bag of groceries. She looked fragile, her back slightly bent, and her face lined with wrinkles that told the story of a long, hard life. She tried to balance the bag in one hand while holding an umbrella in the other, but the rain and the uneven sidewalk made her progress slow and precarious. People walked past without noticing her struggle, their eyes fixed on their phones or the pavement in front of them. Daniel's heart went out to her immediately. Even though he himself had very little, he had always believed in helping others whenever he could. Without thinking twice, he ran over to her, careful not to slip on the wet pavement. "Excuse me, ma'am," he said gently. "Do you want some help with that?" The woman looked surprised at first. She had been so focused on keeping herself upright that she hadn't noticed the small boy approach her. Then, seeing the determination in his eyes, she nodded gratefully. "Oh, yes, thank you, young man." "That would be very kind of you," she replied, her voice soft but strained with effort. Daniel took the bag from her trembling hands and held it carefully, making sure not to let anything fall. "Don't worry, ma'am, I'll help you cross the street too," he added. The traffic was busy, and cars rushed by as if in a race, but Daniel stood firmly by her side, waiting for the right moment to guide her safely across. As they walked together, the woman noticed something in the boy's demeanor. Despite his tattered clothes and the dirt on his face, there was a certain dignity in the way he carried himself. His eyes were kind, alert, and full of empathy, as if he understood the struggles of life far beyond his years. She found herself feeling a warmth in her heart, a rare sensation in a world where most people passed by without a second thought. "Thank you so much for helping me, young man," she said once they reached the other side safely. "It's not often that someone shows such kindness these days." Daniel smiled shyly. "It's okay, ma'am, I'm happy to help. We all need a little help sometimes, right?" He paused for a moment, glancing down at his wet shoes. "I don't have much, but I can always lend a hand." The woman's eyes softened even more. She reached into her purse and pulled out a few coins, offering them to him. "Please take this. It's not much, but it's the least I can do." Daniel shook his head politely. "No, ma'am, I can't take it." "You need it more than I do," he said, his voice firm but gentle. He had learned to survive without money when he had nothing, and he had never been ashamed to ask for food or shelter, but he also had his pride. Accepting charity from someone who needed it more than him felt wrong in a strange way. The woman studied him for a moment, then sighed with a smile. "Very well, young man, you have a good heart. May life bring you kindness in return for the kindness you give." She patted his shoulder gently and walked away, leaving Daniel standing in the rain, feeling a strange mixture of pride and humility. For the rest of the day, Daniel continued his usual routine, searching for scraps of food, finding dry spots to rest, and observing the city around him. Yet something about that encounter stayed with him. He realized that even small acts of kindness could make a difference, not just for the person receiving the help, but also for the one giving it. It reminded him that hope and goodness still existed, even in a world that often seemed cruel and indifferent. That night, Daniel found shelter under the awning of a closed shop. The rain had stopped, leaving a quiet, misty calm over the streets. He curled up on a thin blanket he had found earlier and reflected on the day. He thought about the elderly woman and the warmth of her gratitude. He thought about how small gestures could create ripples of change in ways people might never realize. As he drifted off to sleep, Daniel didn't know what the future held. He didn't know whether he would find a permanent home, whether life would continue to be a struggle, or whether he would encounter more people like the woman he had helped today. But he felt a sense of purpose in his heart, a quiet determination to continue being kind, no matter the hardships he faced. In that moment, Daniel realized that true strength wasn't about having money, power, or even a safe place to live. It was about maintaining one's integrity, compassion, and willingness to help others, even when life itself was difficult. And though he was just a homeless boy navigating a harsh world, Daniel knew that the goodness within him was something no hardship could ever take away. Little did he know that this simple act of helping an elderly woman would soon set in motion events that would change his life in ways he could never imagine. The rain-soaked streets, the lonely nights, and the struggles he faced daily were only the beginning of a story that would soon reveal the power of kindness, courage, and unexpected opportunities. For now, Daniel slept peacefully under the awning, unaware that the world outside his immediate struggles held both challenges and miracles beyond his wildest dreams. He had helped someone in need, and in doing so had taken the first step toward a journey that would transform his life forever. After that rainy day, Daniel continued his life on the streets, moving from one corner to another, searching for food and finding whatever shelter he could. The memory of the elderly woman he had helped stayed with him. He remembered her gentle smile, the way she had thanked him sincerely, and how she had tried to reward him with a few coins. He didn't take them, but something about her kindness lingered in his heart. It made him feel that even in the harsh world he lived in, small acts of goodness could be powerful. Days turned into weeks, and Daniel often thought about the woman. He wondered who she was, why she had been out alone in the rain, and whether life had been hard for her too. He knew that not everyone was kind, but he also knew that some people were capable of generosity and warmth. That thought gave him hope, and hope was something Daniel held on to tightly. One afternoon, as he was walking near the busy shopping district, Daniel spotted a familiar figure. It was the elderly woman, struggling again with her groceries. This time, her face showed even more strain, and she seemed exhausted from carrying the heavy bags. Daniel didn't hesitate. He ran toward her, slipping slightly on the wet pavement but steadying himself quickly. "Ma'am, let me help you," he called out. The woman looked up, surprised but happy to see him again. "Oh, it's you. Thank you so much, young man," she said warmly. Daniel took the bags from her hands and led her toward a safer, less crowded street. As they walked, she looked at him closely. "You are a good boy," she said softly. "I wish more people were like you." Daniel shrugged modestly. "I just try to do what I can." "It's not much, but I help when I can." The woman smiled. "That is more than most people would do. You have a kind heart, and that is rare." As they reached a small park bench, the woman asked him to sit with her for a moment. She wanted to talk, and Daniel, though hesitant at first, agreed. She offered him a small sandwich she had in her bag, and Daniel accepted gratefully. It was the first decent meal he had had that day. "You know," she began, "life can be very unpredictable. Sometimes it is hard, and sometimes it surprises you with kindness. You have surprised me today, and I am very thankful." Daniel listened quietly, eating the sandwich. He had grown used to people talking to him with pity or ignoring him completely. But this woman spoke to him with respect and genuine care. It was a feeling he had not experienced in a long time. "You seem like a smart and honest boy," she continued. "Do you have anyone looking after you?" Daniel's face fell slightly. "No, ma'am, I live on the streets." "I don't have family anymore." The woman's eyes softened. "I am sorry to hear that. It must be very difficult." Daniel nodded but didn't speak further. He had grown accustomed to hiding his pain behind a calm exterior. It was easier that way. For the next few minutes, they sat in silence, listening to the distant sounds of the city. The woman's presence was comforting, and Daniel felt a sense of connection that he had not felt with anyone in a long time. He realized that even though he had very little, he could still offer help and companionship to others. Finally, the woman spoke again. "I wish I could do more for you, young man. You are brave and kind, and I admire that." She paused, as if considering her next words carefully. "My son, he is very wealthy. He has more than enough for himself, and I often worry that he forgets the value of simple kindness. I see it in you, though. You remind me of the goodness that sometimes gets lost in the world." Daniel looked at her curiously but didn't understand everything she meant. "Your son?" he asked. The woman smiled gently. "Yes, my son, but you don't need to worry about that. Just know that you are appreciated and your kindness does not go unnoticed." Daniel felt a strange warmth in his chest. No one had ever said such things to him. Most people treated him like he was invisible, or worse, like he was a burden. But here was someone who saw him for who he was, a boy with a kind heart, trying his best in a difficult world. Before leaving, the woman handed him a small hot meal she had prepared. "Take this," she said. "It is not much, but it will keep you warm and give you strength." Daniel accepted it gratefully. "Thank you, ma'am, you're very kind." The woman patted his shoulder gently. "Remember, Daniel, life is full of surprises. Sometimes help comes from the places we least expect. Keep your heart kind, and the world will reward you in ways you cannot imagine." With that, she walked away, leaving Daniel standing in the park with the hot meal in his hands. He watched her disappear into the crowd, feeling both grateful and inspired. That simple act of kindness filled him with hope and reminded him that goodness existed even in the harshest of circumstances. Over the next few weeks, Daniel continued to encounter the woman. Sometimes she saw him in the street and offered him food or a warm blanket. Sometimes she just smiled at him as she passed by. Each interaction strengthened Daniel's resolve to stay kind, no matter how difficult his own life was. One afternoon, while Daniel was resting under the shade of a tree in the park, he noticed the woman struggling again with her groceries. This time, a strong gust of wind knocked her umbrella over, and she almost dropped a bag. Without hesitation, Daniel ran to her side. He grabbed the bag and steadied her umbrella, protecting her from the sudden wind and rain. "Thank you, young man," she said, slightly out of breath. "You always seem to appear just when I need help." Daniel smiled. "I just want to help, ma'am. You don't have to struggle alone." The woman studied him for a moment. "You are extraordinary, Daniel. Most people your age would look the other way, but you have a rare heart. I see it in the way you act, and I want you to know it does not go unnoticed." Daniel felt a mixture of pride and humility. He had never received such praise before. Most of the time, people ignored him or treated him with suspicion. But this woman, she saw him. She saw the effort he made, the kindness he offered, and the courage he displayed despite his own struggles. "You remind me that the world is not entirely selfish," she said softly. "There is still goodness even in unexpected places." Daniel nodded, feeling a warm sense of purpose. He realized that helping others, even when he had so little, gave him strength. It made him feel alive, connected, and valuable. He was no longer just a boy surviving on the streets. He was someone who could make a difference, even in small ways. As the weeks passed, Daniel and the woman grew closer in a quiet, unspoken bond. She never asked for anything from him beyond his help, and he never sought rewards or recognition. Their interactions were simple acts of kindness, but they carried profound meaning for both of them. One day, as they walked together to cross a busy street, the woman paused and looked at Daniel seriously. "I have something to tell you, Daniel," she said. "My son, he is a very wealthy man. He has everything one could want in life, but he sometimes forgets what is truly important. Seeing you, your bravery, your kindness, it reminds me of the value of helping others without expecting anything in return." Daniel blinked, surprised but curious. "Your son wealthy?" he asked quietly. The woman nodded. "Yes, but don't worry about that now. Just know that your actions, your heart, your courage, they matter. And one day you might find that life rewards you in ways you cannot imagine." Daniel felt a strange mix of emotions. He didn't fully understand what she meant, but he knew that her words carried a promise. A promise that his kindness would not go unnoticed, that his efforts would one day lead to something greater. That evening, Daniel curled up under a bridge he often used for shelter. He thought about the woman, her words, and the small meals she had given him. He felt a sense of hope, a feeling he had not experienced in a long time. Perhaps life could be more than surviving on the streets. Perhaps with kindness, courage, and determination, he could create a better future for himself. Little did Daniel know that the bond he had formed with the elderly woman would soon lead to an extraordinary opportunity, one that would change his life forever. The kindness he had shown without expecting anything in return was about to bring him into a world he had never dreamed of, a world where courage and goodness were recognized and rewarded in the most unexpected ways. And so Daniel continued his days, helping where he could, surviving where he must, and holding on to the hope that one small act of kindness could ripple through the world in ways he could never imagine. Days passed like usual for Daniel, the homeless boy who had become known in the neighborhood for his quiet courage and helpful nature. He moved from place to place, searching for food and shelter, always careful not to draw too much attention to himself. Life on the streets was still difficult, but Daniel had learned to find small joys, like a warm meal from a kind stranger, a dry corner to rest during a rainstorm, or a smile from someone who appreciated him. Despite the hardships, Daniel had continued to help others whenever he could. It had become almost instinctive for him. If someone struggled with a heavy load, or if he noticed a child lost or frightened, Daniel stepped forward. His heart had become a compass that guided him to do the right thing, no matter the circumstances. One afternoon, as Daniel wandered through a quieter part of the city, he noticed the elderly woman he had helped several times before. She seemed anxious and tense, looking around nervously as she tried to open the front gate of her house. Daniel instinctively approached her. "Ma'am, is everything okay?" he asked, concern in his voice. The woman's eyes widened with relief when she saw him. "Daniel." "Thank goodness you're here," she said, her voice shaking. I think someone is trying to take advantage of me." Daniel frowned. "What do you mean?" Before she could answer, a group of rough-looking men appeared from the street, shouting and trying to intimidate her. They demanded money and threatened her, their voices loud and aggressive. The elderly woman's hands trembled as she clutched her handbag, and for the first time, Daniel saw real fear in her eyes. Without a moment's hesitation, Daniel stepped forward. "Leave her alone," he shouted, his small frame trembling but his voice firm. "She hasn't done anything to you." The men laughed, thinking the boy was no threat. One of them even sneered, "What are you going to do about it, kid?" Daniel's heart pounded in his chest, but he refused to step back. He remembered everything he had learned on the streets, how to stand his ground, how to protect himself, and how to act decisively when someone was in danger. He grabbed a nearby stick and waved it, shouting loudly to scare them off. "You need to go, now," he yelled, his voice echoing against the walls of the houses. The men hesitated, surprised by the boy's courage. They hadn't expected anyone to intervene, and certainly not someone so small and seemingly defenseless. But Daniel's determination was clear. He stood firm, his eyes locked on theirs, refusing to back down. The elderly woman's voice trembled as she whispered, "Daniel, thank you." Finally, the men, realizing they were not going to intimidate him, muttered angrily and walked away, disappearing into the streets. Daniel watched them go, his hands shaking slightly but his resolve unbroken. He turned to the woman. "Are you okay?" he asked gently. She nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. "Thanks to you, Daniel, I don't know what I would have done without you." Daniel smiled, trying to hide the fear that had briefly flickered in his heart. "I'm glad you're safe," he said. "That's all that matters." The woman studied him for a long moment, as if seeing him in a new light. "You are truly extraordinary, Daniel," she said softly. "Not many people your age would have stood up like that. You have courage and a heart full of goodness." Daniel felt a strange warmth in his chest. He had acted instinctively, not thinking of praise or reward. But hearing her words, he realized that sometimes doing the right thing could make a real difference in someone's life. The woman invited him inside her house to rest and have a warm meal. Daniel hesitated, unsure if it was appropriate for him to enter someone else's home, but the woman insisted. "You have helped me, Daniel. Now let me help you," she said kindly. Inside, the house was warm and filled with a sense of comfort that Daniel had rarely experienced. It smelled of freshly baked bread and clean linen, and the furniture was neat and inviting. Daniel sat down at the table, feeling a mixture of awe and gratitude. While Daniel ate, the woman began to speak. "Daniel, I want you to know that your actions today and the way you have helped me in the past have not gone unnoticed. You are a remarkable young man." Daniel listened quietly, unsure how to respond. He had never been praised like this before, and it felt both strange and wonderful. "My son," the woman continued, "he is a very successful man. He has wealth and power beyond what most people could imagine. But even he has not shown the kind of bravery and selflessness that I have seen in you." Daniel's eyes widened in surprise. "Your son wealthy?" he asked. "Yes," she said gently. "He has everything, but sometimes he forgets what is truly important. Seeing your courage today reminds me of the value of kindness, bravery, and selflessness." Daniel nodded, still processing her words. He had never thought about wealth or success. His world had always been about survival, finding food, and staying safe. But hearing her speak about her son and about how she valued his courage gave him a strange sense of hope. The woman smiled warmly. "Daniel, I would like you to meet my son. I think he would like to know you." Daniel blinked in surprise. "Meet your son?" he repeated. "Yes," she said. "He is a good man, and I believe he would want to help someone like you. You have shown courage and kindness in a way that is rare. I want him to know that there are young people in this world who are truly special." Daniel felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. He had never imagined that his life on the streets could lead to such an opportunity. But he trusted the woman, and he had learned that kindness and courage often led to unexpected rewards. Later that afternoon, Daniel was introduced to her son, Robert Thompson, a man in his early 40s with a kind face and calm demeanor. Robert looked at Daniel carefully, noticing the dirt on his clothes, the weariness in his eyes, but also the strength and determination in his posture. "So, you are Daniel," Robert said warmly. "My mother has told me a lot about you." Daniel nodded shyly. "Yes, sir. I just try to help where I can," Robert smiled. "That's exactly what I wanted to hear. Courage and kindness, those are qualities that money cannot buy, and you, Daniel, have them in abundance." Daniel felt a mixture of pride and humility. He had acted out of instinct, without thinking of recognition or reward, yet here he was, being acknowledged for his bravery. Robert continued, "I want to help you, Daniel. You deserve an opportunity to live safely, to go to school, and to build a future. You have shown that you have the heart and the character to make the most of it." Daniel's eyes widened. "Really? You would help me?" "Yes," Robert said firmly. "You have proven yourself through your actions. I believe in giving people a chance when they have shown they are deserving. You have shown that." From that day on, Daniel's life began to change. He was offered a place to stay, a chance to attend school, and guidance to develop his talents. The courage he had shown in protecting the elderly woman had not only saved her from danger, but had also opened the door to a future he had never imagined. Daniel embraced this opportunity with gratitude and determination. He worked hard in school, learning new things, making friends, and discovering talents he had never had the chance to explore. He also continued to help others whenever he could, never forgetting the lessons he had learned on the streets, the importance of kindness, courage, and integrity. The bond between Daniel and the elderly woman grew stronger as well. She continued to support him, not just with material help, but with guidance, encouragement, and the reassurance that he was valued and respected. Through this experience, Daniel learned a powerful lesson. Life could be unpredictable, and challenges could appear at any time. But the way a person responded to those challenges, with courage, kindness, and integrity, could change everything. One act of bravery, one act of selflessness, could lead to opportunities beyond imagination and could transform a life completely. Daniel's story spread quietly through the neighborhood, inspiring others. People saw the young boy who had stood up against danger, who had helped without expectation, and who had remained kind despite his own hardships. He became a symbol of hope, courage, and the power of goodness. And though Daniel had faced hardships that most people could not imagine, he had also discovered the incredible truth that life had a way of rewarding those who remained true to their hearts. Courage, kindness, and selflessness, these were the qualities that would guide him toward a future brighter than anything he had ever dreamed of on the streets. Little did he know that this was only the beginning. His journey of transformation had started, and the lessons he had learned, the courage he had shown, and the kindness he had offered would continue to shape his life in ways more amazing than he could ever imagine. From the day Daniel met Robert Thompson, his life began to change in ways he had never imagined. The boy who had wandered the streets, scavenging for food and sleeping in corners, was now stepping into a world of opportunity, care, and hope. At first, it all felt overwhelming. The walls of Robert Thompson's house seemed enormous, the furniture unfamiliar, and the warmth of a home a strange contrast to the cold pavements Daniel had grown used to. Yet, despite his initial hesitation, Daniel felt a sense of belonging that he had never known before. Robert had arranged a comfortable room for Daniel. It was small but cozy, with a warm bed, fresh blankets, and a few simple furnishings. He also introduced Daniel to a tutor who would help him catch up on the years he had missed in school. Daniel's heart swelled with gratitude. For the first time in years, he could sleep without fear, eat without worry, and learn without distraction. Yet, what touched him the most was the way Robert treated him, not as a charity case, but as someone deserving of respect, opportunity, and guidance. "You've already shown great courage, Daniel," Robert said one evening as they sat in the living room. "Now it's time to help you build a future. I want you to grow, learn, and discover your potential. You've already proven your character. Now we will focus on giving you the tools to succeed." Daniel listened intently, realizing that his actions on the streets, the courage to stand up for the elderly woman, the kindness he had shown despite his own struggles, had led to this extraordinary opportunity. He understood that life had rewarded him, not for his misfortune, but for the goodness he had shown in the midst of it. School was challenging at first. Daniel had missed several years of formal education, and the lessons that his classmates took for granted were new to him. But he was determined. He studied hard, asked questions, and never hesitated to seek help when needed. Robert often reminded him that learning was a gift, and Daniel embraced it fully. Every new fact he learned, every skill he mastered, strengthened his confidence. As weeks turned into months, Daniel began to discover talents he had never realized he had. He loved reading stories, solving problems, and helping others understand what he had learned. His natural empathy and patience made him a favorite among his tutors and classmates. People noticed his resilience, his kindness, and the quiet strength that had carried him through the hardest years of his life. Meanwhile, Daniel never forgot the elderly woman who had first trusted him, who had recognized his courage and kindness, and who had helped open the door to this new life. He visited her often, bringing small gifts, helping with errands, and spending time with her. Their bond grew deeper with each visit, built on mutual respect, gratitude, and affection. She had given him hope when he had almost none, and he never stopped appreciating her guidance. One afternoon, while walking through a nearby park with her, Daniel said, "You know, I never imagined that helping someone could lead to all this. I just wanted to do the right thing." The woman smiled warmly. "That is the beauty of kindness, Daniel. When you act with a good heart, the world finds a way to reward it. You have proven that goodness can create opportunities even in the most unexpected ways." Daniel felt a strong desire to give back, just as he had received. He began helping other children in need, offering guidance, food, and friendship to those struggling on the streets. He became a role model, showing that courage and kindness could change lives. People who once overlooked him now admired his dedication, humility, and generosity. Robert noticed this change as well. "Daniel," he said one day, "you have an extraordinary gift, not just in surviving, but in inspiring others. You are proof that one person's actions can ripple through the lives of many. I am proud of you." Daniel smiled, feeling a sense of purpose stronger than anything he had known. He had gone from a boy alone in the streets to someone who could shape his own future while helping others shape theirs. The lessons he had learned, the value of courage, the importance of kindness, and the power of selflessness, guided every decision he made. As time passed, Daniel's confidence grew. He excelled in school, forming friendships and learning new skills. He discovered a love for storytelling, inspired by the people he had met and the experiences he had lived. He often shared these stories with other children, encouraging them to remain hopeful, kind, and brave. His past struggles became a source of strength and inspiration rather than shame or sorrow. One day, the elderly woman asked Daniel about his dreams for the future. He paused, thinking carefully. "I want to help others," he said finally. "I want to make sure no child has to go through what I went through. I want to show that kindness can change lives just like it changed mine." The woman's eyes filled with tears. "You already are, Daniel. Every act of courage and every gesture of kindness you offer makes the world better. You are living proof that goodness matters." With Robert's guidance and support, Daniel eventually established a small organization to help homeless and underprivileged children. He provided food, education, and mentorship, ensuring that the children he helped had opportunities to build better lives. His story inspired many people in the community to contribute and volunteer, creating a ripple effect of generosity and support. Daniel's life had transformed completely, but he remained humble and grounded. He never forgot the streets he had walked, the struggles he had faced, or the lessons he had learned. He continued to help the elderly woman, visit neighborhoods in need, and encourage children to believe in themselves. Every day, he lived by the values that had guided him since his darkest moments: courage, kindness, and hope. Through Daniel's journey, it became clear that life could be unpredictable, but goodness, bravery, and selflessness had the power to change everything. One small act, helping an elderly woman with her groceries, had set in motion a chain of events that transformed his life forever. It showed that even in a world filled with challenges, one person's courage and kindness could inspire hope, create opportunities, and leave a lasting impact. Daniel's story spread beyond his neighborhood. People admired his resilience and generosity, recognizing the boy who had faced tremendous hardship yet remained unwaveringly kind. He became a symbol of hope, courage, and the transformative power of good deeds. Eventually, Daniel realized that his life was no longer defined by survival, but by purpose. He had turned every struggle into a stepping stone, every act of kindness into an opportunity, and every moment of courage into inspiration for others. He had learned that life's true rewards did not come from wealth, power, or fame, but from the impact one could have on others through selflessness and love. As Daniel looked back on his journey, he thought about the rainy day when he had first helped the elderly woman. He remembered the fear, the struggle, and the simple choice to do what was right. That moment had changed everything. It had led to safety, education, guidance, and a future filled with hope. It had also given him the power to change the lives of others, creating a legacy that would last far beyond his own story. Daniel continued to live with gratitude, humility, and determination. He knew that life would still bring challenges, but he also knew that courage, kindness, and integrity would guide him through. His journey from the streets to a life of opportunity and purpose was a testament to the idea that even in the darkest circumstances, one act of goodness could ignite a brighter future. And so Daniel's life became an inspiring tale of transformation, hope, and the incredible power of a kind heart. From a homeless boy wandering the streets to a young man creating change and inspiring others, Daniel's story proved that goodness, courage, and selflessness could not only survive the harshest conditions, they could flourish, creating miracles and transforming lives in ways beyond imagination.